Vice President JD Vance had a warning for Iran during his visit to Hungary this morning.
They've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
So the VP sent that message while on stage with the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban. Vance is extending his support to the Prime Minister ahead of a pivotal election. Orban is facing his strongest challenge to date since he became Prime Minister 16 years ago, and polls show his opponent is leading with less than a week to go until the election. Now, moments ago, whilst giving remarks, the VP actually called President Trump on the phone. He says Viktor Orban has his full support.
I just want to tell you, I'm a big fan of Victor. I'm with him all the way. The United States is with him all the way. And it's a real honor to talk to you. You're really incredible people with great enthusiasm and brilliance, because you're brilliant people. And I really love it. You have a man that kept your country strong and kept your country good. And you don't have problems with all of the problems that so many other countries have because they let their countries be invaded. And you don't have that problem because of Viktor Orban. That's the only reason you don't have that problem. There was a lot of pressure on him to do it, and those other countries made big mistakes. So I wish you all the luck, and I love you all.
Let's go live now to CBS News Intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazis. Olivia, can you talk to us about this election and the goal of the VP's visit today?
Sure. Well, Prime Minister Orban had vocally appealed to President Trump to come in person. I guess he got him by phone in the end. But the vice president's trip is the highest level U.S. visit to Orban in nearly 2 decades. And he's the second senior American official after Secretary of State Marco Rubio to come to Budapest with this explicit aim of boosting Orban's electoral standing. You heard the vice president today frame this relationship as one of moral cooperation, describing U.S.-Hungary ties as civilizational and saying it's a golden era in the relationship. And that is all stemming from this broader shift by the administration, as was laid out by the national security strategy, reinforced by Rubio at the Munich Security Conference in February, as this deliberate effort by the U.S. to deepen ties with nationalist, right-leaning leaders like Orban, like Robert Fico in Slovakia, who are hardline on immigration, skeptical of support for Ukraine, and much more accommodating toward Russia than most of the other countries in the EU. And there's also this obvious, very personal dimension here. Donald Trump and Viktor Orban have long been personally and politically aligned. Orban was the first European leader to back Trump's campaign in 2016. Now here Trump is very vocally returning the favor. But as you mentioned, it is far from clear that this effort is going to move the needle for Orban. Independent polls are showing that he's trailing by double digits. When we pressed him in Budapest just months ago on whether he would accept a defeat, he said that he had been an opposition leader almost as long as he's been prime minister and that he's not afraid of losing. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah, we will definitely see what happens. I want to ask about this because is there any concern that what's happening with Iran will overshadow the vice president's goal for this trip today, especially when you consider what the president posted on social media earlier?
Absolutely. And I think you saw the vice president pressed much more on issues of the moment pertaining to Iran than on Hungarian politics. And that's stemming in part, of course, because of his potential role as an interlocutor in these still unrealized talks brokered by Pakistan, helped along in other ways by Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey. He mentioned receiving a text message from Steve Witkoff that he held up, but he didn't read. And you heard the vice president address the U.S. military strikes on Kharg Island this morning. Here's what he said about those.
You asked about Kharg Island. My understanding, having talked to Pete and General Kane about this, is that we were going to strike some military targets on Kharg Island. I believe we have done so. The president's deadline has been followed by us and everybody else, and he said very clearly, we're not going to strike energy and infrastructure targets until the Iranians either make a proposal that we can get behind or don't make a proposal, but he's given them until Tuesday at 8 o'clock. So I don't think the news on Kharg Island represents a change in strategy or represents any change from the President of the United States.
The vice president highlighting the continuity in U.S. strategy and appearing to preserve the possibility that Iran still comes to the table by the president's 8 o'clock deadline tonight.
All right. Olivia Gazis, thank you so much for your time.